Normally this would be trash, this handle, but I'm gonna, it's just for myself, so I want to see what I can get away with. Look at all these inclusions and knots. This is a big inclusion. That's not good. I might be able to get away with using it though. But let's get to the point of this video. Ooh, that smells good. Okay. Not doing too bad here. So you see my angle here? I'm not going straight down. I'm trying to meet the same angle I want my hand to lie in. You see how my hand is kind of angled this way? So I do the same thing when I'm rasping up the palm swell. This does two things. This keeps that angle, and it removes material where I want it removed. It just works out so there's a taper, so it's thinner here and thicker up here. And it kind of gives it that dish. It kind of dishes out. Now that could just be muscle memory, but I think this is the key, going up the grain. Yeah, you know what I'm doing? So right about here is where I'm putting the most force, and then I let up. Now I advise you to change sides and line it up to see where you got to do your work. So it's already looking a lot better. Now what do I have to work on? I have to make it a lot thinner. So here's my angle. It's really easy to remember what the angle is because you cut the end of the palm swell on the same exact angle. Now we'll work down. What we want to make sure we're doing is lining this up with this. The middle of the handle doesn't matter so much. You'd like it to look straight at least, but really, as long as the axe head is aligned with where your hands are, totally fine. You could have a little bend in your handle even. So what I should be doing is this, because I'm going to use the draw knife and I'm going to pull with the grain. So because there's a slope going down in the timber, because there's a slope like this, you can't cut up the slope. Otherwise it'll just tear out because the growth, the rings that grow around the tree all year round, they would just tear out. So there's nothing supporting behind the ring. So if I went up, it would just want to rip this whole section off. If I go down, I'm going the right way, and it'll be much more, much easier and cooperative. Now, this is a really funky piece of wood, so we'll see what happens, because the grain is going to change, because the way that a knot is, it's a branch that goes horizontal with the growth rings that are usually going vertical. So it's the same thing, it changes the tear out sections. So we'll see what happens here. That worked out pretty well. All right. Now we go to the back. What do we got to do here? A little bit here. Now the grain goes down here and then it kind of changes over. So we'll see what happens here. So this is where it changes. This is where the grain meets two, I call it a valley or a concave. The middle of that valley, the middle of that concave, is a tear out section where what you do is you be really careful, and at the end of it you scoop upwards. So this is a really difficult area to show it to you. Let's see if I can do it. So slicing cut, and at the end of the slicing cut I angle up. Now, it's very difficult to get rid of these sections when the wood is green. And that's why when you're spoon carving, you wait for it to get dry, and then you do these little parts like this. But, you know, all these knots, it would be crazy to try to use this for a spoon. It'd be tough. All right, so we look again. Now I can start working on the shape of the handle. It's still really thick, but there's nothing wrong with keeping it thick before you start working on the tongue, because you'll want to align everything anyway, especially if you do it all by eye like me. Another thing about keeping it thick is it helps with these voids. You might be able to work around it. If you see old handles that people make, sometimes it has little voids. Sometimes they don't even worry about these little sections of tear out. They just keep it as is because they just want to use it. And as they use it, I mean, as long as you get in there with some kind of file or rasp or sandpaper, it'll be pretty smooth. So they just want to use it, and it will also gain like a smooth patina as they use it. I actually want to work on this before I do anything else. All right. That's a little goofy. Get rid of this section right here. This would be a really difficult handle for a beginner to try to carve out of this really difficult grain. So where else would I want to get rid of a little material? Right here. I just want to get a little bit of a smoother transition. It's a little straight right there. So very carefully. I'm really using light pressure here. That's a little better, and we'll blend it in. Might be a little thin. Now, you know what? It'll be fine at the end. This is for a small axe anyway. And what do I got to do is I got to remove some material here to align this a little better. We'll do that with the cheapest hand plane you could find, basically. These are farrier rasps. Well, this one's not so cheap anymore, but they used to be. I call it a cheap hand plane because look how wide the surface is. You can really flatten something with these. There we go. Is. So you see this knot? This will make this very difficult to do with a draw knife. We'll see what happens. This is bouncing around, so much easier if you make it sturdy in the clamp or the vise for in this instance. Constantly eyeing it up because I do not have a center line. So I want to make sure that the eye of the axe is going to easily align with the palm swell where my hands hold the axe. Pretty good. Just I have some extra material here that I'm going to remove. I opened up this divot. I actually filled that with some sawdust and glue, and the sawdust wasn't fine enough and there wasn't enough glue. I should have mixed it. What you do is you take some sawdust and you try to get it really wet with the glue if you want it to fill well, and mine was a little dry, so it didn't do a good job. So you see how the tear out would be unsupported if I went this way. So I'm going this way where there's wood behind it, and that's why it's not tearing out as bad now on this knot area. Now we're looking good. Do a little front of the tongue work. This is kind of nasty wood, so a little bit hard to predict what's going to happen. Don't want to take too much away because I can't replace it. That should be all right. What we're doing here is we're just making it so the axe head can just barely fit on, right? So you don't want to take too much from the most important part about the top of your tongue is keeping the back and the front as wide as you can so you can fill all the space in the eye. I can see a little crack here. I don't really care about this. This is a really bad piece of lumber. I'm just going to send it. I want to see what happens. I want to see if it works out, if it breaks or not. Dangerous experimentation, but maybe I'll wear some boots instead of sandals. Let's see. Yeah, it's pretty good. A little bit this way, and then I'll work on the back. All right, let's work on the back. See if we can jam this handle into that axe. I like to keep a little bit of the thickness in the handle before I start working on the handle tongue, just so I know that I can line it up a little better. That was a mistake. Another mistake. And another. Try to keep as much material as we can just in case. Alright, let's see. It's not going to fit because, there's some problem areas here. So it shouldn't fit, but let's see what happens. Just give you a good little view. So this is the bottom. And what I do is I line it up and I see where I need to remove material. I don't think it's a good idea to have for it to slope down. So people kind of recess their axes sometimes, and it looks like that instead of the handle, the front of the eye being aligned with the front of the handle tongue. I want it to be all the way aligned, because the thing is, if you recess it, if it's back here, you get less bit. If you're cutting with this, if you're doing cross cutting with this, you want the bit to be out as far as possible. Otherwise, you're not getting as much, you're not getting as much bit in that wood as you can, because then it'll hit the front of the handle. The eye is kind of funky. I might try to work with that. You see how it's got that indent almost? I might try to work with that. It's a lot easier to use the spoke shape for the back of the handle tongue than it is the side of the handle tongue. So you'll always see me switch. I'll use the draw knife on the side, and sometimes, or most times, I'll use the spoke shape for the back, especially when it's more fine, like kind of cuts that I want. I want to remove less material, really kind of creep down on what I want. Okay, a little more. You can do fine cuts with a draw knife. You just have to use a gentle touch. Whoa. Whoa, Nelly. Alright. I see a little bit more that I want to do over here, below where the axe is going to be. But I always want to make sure that I have enough material below the axe so there's so it's slightly thicker below the axe, because otherwise you can't do that good press fit when you slam the axe head on, and it'll stay in place even without the wedge for a pretty long time, but the wedge locks everything together. So you slam it on, it's a press fit, it kind of creeps down and it's just stuck right here. And then below that is a little thicker, but not too much thicker, because otherwise you'll create a shelf. Okay, let's see if we got any progress. I like to do it like this. Put it in here, and then you can really eye it up to see where you need to remove material. You don't even need to do any tracing, really. Alright, so I need to remove material on the back right here on both sides, and a little bit on the front, both sides. So I'll kind of mark it. I can mark it with my eyes, or I can just go like this. And this. Just a little bit of thinning. I'll go the opposite side first that I marked. Okay, so once again, I see there's a knot here. The wood will be supported this way, so I'm going to cut a slice and cut that way. We don't want to remove too much material here, but it's not the end of the world when you remove too much material from the top of the handle tongue, because that just means you can put a bigger, fatter wedge in. But if you remove material below, like we talked about, you're in big trouble. Or too much material below, you're in big trouble. That was a goofy way of doing that. I removed a little too much, but it should be okay. Alright. Let's see what we got here. It won't be perfectly aligned because I didn't do that very carefully. Alright, just a tiny bit on the back. Once again, I don't want to remove material from the front because I can't put it back. I don't want my axe to be recessed. Alright, let's just see if I can get it on. Hold up. Ooh, it's so close. You see that little funk right there? If I can remove that material, I mean, I could just use a file. I don't want to change the axe head though. So just see if we can guess. I'm going to take a look. So I need to remove material from the side here and the side here. Let's see what that does. Still just a hair in the middle. Just a hair. Alright, that should be okay. Should be, but you never know. Let's see, what's the... Okay, that's right here. Alright, now we've got something going for us. I want to make sure that I'm not going to hurt my draw knife by doing this. because it's so early in the hafting process, I could just jam it on. Okay, so we're on. I think we'll end the video there.